Good morning. What are we looking at today? This is a 33-gallon tank that we set up as a quarantine tank. Quarantining. You hear everybody talk about quarantining. What is quarantining? Why do we do it? What's it all about? Well, here in Canada, quarantining is a little different, and I'll tell you why. Because recently they have changed our ability to get most of the medications that you could get. So there's the old go-to salt. Melafix is a very popular thing. EPI, and they had a whole different bunch of packages that look very similar to this. That one happens to be General Cure for parasites, other fish diseases, it says. And so on and so on and so on. Those are just a few that I grabbed to sit out there. But I'll tell you how I do it. This tank is set up as a quarantine tank. Most of these fish are mature or semi-mature. They're quite a mix of fish. They're all cichlids. And they've come in from different places, different friends that had them, or somebody was looking to get rid of a fish, and I'll try to take on a fish and rehome a fish, or maybe it'll fit in with something that I have going on. But either way, we have to quarantine them before they go into my own tanks. And I'll tell you what I have in this tank right now. Water. That's what I have in this tank right now. Water, and we regulate the temperature. I keep the temperature at about, that says 25 or 24 or something like that Celsius, which would be about 77, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, because that's what all these fish will do well in anyway. And you got to kind of pick a number when you're mixing fish. And then we keep it well filtered, some good cycled media from some other tanks. The sponge in the bag is, and another sponge over here, and of course an intake sponge and media in that clear filter that I got hung on the back to make sure this tank is all kicked up good. But of course your beneficial bacteria is going to be up and down and all around when you're not consistently keeping the same number of fish in a tank. So as a result, I keep bags in other tanks all the time, sponges and various things that I can then jump start a tank or use a tank like this for quarantining. So see there, we got a fellow that is rubbing a little bit. Now that doesn't always mean that he's sick. Sometimes it just means he's itchy. So like I say, what I have in here is water. Why just water? Why aren't I automatically putting a bunch of chemicals in there? Because sometimes I think that causes just as much stress to the fish as it does just observing the fish and seeing what's going on. I'll do lots of water changes on here, get them in some good healthy fresh water. Lots of water changes, frequent water changes. And that's going to make the fish itchy as they get used to the water. I have well water. We live in the country, so I don't have to worry, and we test our water still, but we don't have to worry about chlorine and chloramine and things like that. Different fish medications for internal and external parasites. Salt is the question. Do you use it? Don't you use it? For the longest time, that's all we used, and then it turned into don't use it at all. It's horrible stuff. I think it's still useful. Medications are harder to get here in Canada. They took all of them off the shelves because of an ingredient they have or something along those lines, and most of that is just rumor. Who knows what the facts are? But I know this is a fact. I can't get most fish medications, which I don't know if there's really such thing as a fish medication to begin with, or if it's something that is used for something else and used on fish as well. They're hard to get. But there are some other things you can do. Like I said, observe the fish, do some water changes, see what's happening with the fish before you do anything with the fish or put it anywhere. Isolate the fish for a little while, observe the fish. For internal parasites, we use PanCure or some version of it, which is actually dog dewormer. I find that works very effectively. General Cure a lot of the time for external parasites, and internal it's supposed to do some of that as well. Aquarium salt I use sometimes, but you have to be careful with that on the type of fish it is. And remember that it adds respiratory problems for the fish. Now what I mean by problems, it makes it a little harder for them. It helps increase the mucous membrane on the fish, but does it help or is it making it harder? So it's kind of an up and down thing. And there are lots of people with far more knowledge than me out there that can tell you about medications. Identifying a fish disease is hard in itself. But the number one thing to do is isolate the fish in their own tank somewhere with good water, good temperature, and give them a good fighting chance. All right, good luck with your quarantine tanks.